So I want to welcome Renee, Raia. Woo! I am so honored to have you join us on the New Earth podcast, which is what we're all going to be doing collectively. We all have the power to do so. We all have the information inside of us that we need to be able to manifest the kind of earth that we really all want to live in. And this is really the purpose of the podcast and the reason why I bring on a person like you, because you have such unbelievable information to share. And I feel like if we can get these kinds of conversations out to the globe and have people starting to talk this way and act this way and think this way and action this way, that even if they could just take some small steps and begin to know that they are empowered, that we have done something right. So I'm going to introduce you. Renee has an unbelievable background. She is a community advocate for health and for wellness, deeply rooted in Staten Island, which is where we both live. She's also a meditation and a breathwork facilitator. She is an author of the book Heal the Planet, Heal Your Soul, which I love that title so much. I like feel things when I read it. Award-winning plant-based chef, owned the first vegan restaurant ever in Staten Island. And this is my most favorite part about you and how we met, awakened to non-physical dimensions since 2011. Woo! Welcome, Renee.
Thank you, Alana. I'm so happy to be here with you. So
I'm
happy.
so appreciative. I would love to like go into the story of how we met because it changed my life. Like I always go back to that story. And I don't know, like most people that are probably listening to this podcast may not be aware of the fact that I was in the corporate world until I had my transformation, or nervous breakdown all at the same time.
Yes.
That's what was happening when
Uh-huh.
maybe this was like, how many years ago was this? Like six or something?
About 18, 19,
Yeah, right before COVID.
and
Right.
right before I opened the cafe. So it was about 2018.
Yeah. And it
Looked
was,
at nature, and
you tell the story.
we were both walking in nature. I never met you before, and you were going through a purge and a transformation because your soul was pulling you out of that corporate world. And I happened to meet you there and was able to just lend you some support through meditation and holding space and allowing you to breathe and pass those feelings through you, because transformation is painful. And sometimes you just need to breathe it out and have support of someone holding that space and being a witness to what you're going through. So I had the privilege of doing that with you that day.
Oh, thank you. So Renee is being really kind in not saying that I was like literally walking up the hill there crying.
I don't want
And I remember I was with my dog, my sweet little dog. My poor dog has been through like all of this with me. And I remember like I had my sunglasses on. And I remember you were kind of like next to me or something, like up like a little further more. And I was like, wow, I hope this woman doesn't like see me crying, as I'm walking up the hill. And I'm like, I'm sure she's not going to see me crying because I have my sunglasses on. And somehow it was one of those like really rare moments when you meet someone like on impact who just like totally gets you right away. And that like happened. Which
Yeah.
is really rare, especially from where we live. You like understood what I was going through. Like you just looked at me and you were like, oh, honey. And like took me like to like this bench at the top of the hill where the sun was shining on us and we had like this view of the water. And like I hardly even had to like talk. You just like knew, like I think I said like two sentences. I think I said like, having a hard time in corporate. And you were like, oh, sweetheart. And like I collapsed and you did breathing with me. You did something where we opened up my heart and like literally it bled warmth across my entire body. I had never experienced something like that before. And that you would do that for someone that you don't even know, that like you just met. I mean, that was one of the most transformative moments of my life. And the reason why, you being the first guest of this podcast is so meaningful to me, because you really changed my life.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that from you. Thank you, Alana.
So now you're going to change everyone else's life.
Yay! Yay! I would love
Boom.
to see everyone upgrade so we could all feel joy. Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So with that, what I'll ask you to do, is kind of, go into a little bit of your background, right? Community advocate, meditation facilitator, award-winning plant-based chef.
Oh,
These are not small things, right? So would you want to share your journey into this spiritual path? We had already mentioned that there was this awakening to, a multidimensional kind of world in 2011. So, what led up to that? Where were you before?
so for over 30 years, I've always been an advocate for health and wellness and movement and music and just all the good stuff in life. But that changed drastically in 2011 when I had what Buddhists and yogis call a Kundalini awakening. And that's
Mm,
really when all your chakras open, especially the crown, and you start becoming connected to the non-physical worlds, and you experience all your five clairs, which are clairvoyant, clairolfaction, clairaudient, clairsentient, and claircognizant. So now, even though you're living and you're grounded in a third dimensional construct, your consciousness is aware of what's non-physical, and it comes in
mm,
ways through smell, through hearing things or through intuition, through a knowing. So once I started seeing the cause and effect relationship between all that is energetically, I started to put pieces together and understand that the third dimension is just a part of it, but we kind of are veiled and blanketed a little bit.
mm,
But when we start to raise our vibration and really connect with our spirit and our true essence, that's when we could live a more joyous life. We could raise our vibration, and we have less negativity to transmute because we're operating on a higher frequency. And I could tell you that it's so much nicer than the third dimension, because I felt like the third dimension, it kind of could keep you stuck if you don't know any better.
right.
Having the ability to understand dimensions more than this one gives you another edge where you would look to make better choices that would benefit everyone and be a positive contributor to humanity. That was a benefit of being awakened, which also wasn't a pretty process, Alana.
That's what I want to ask you. Because it's so awesome to get to talk to someone who has had that experience, because I also had that experience, and it's like once you go there, you can never go back again. Like everything changes from like a biological perspective as well. Like I lost my taste for alcohol, like I couldn't be around certain kinds of people anymore. I couldn't go back to the corporate world anymore. Like I was like, damn, this is like not even a joke, and I know a lot of people are like searching for this kind of thing. Like they want to kind of like release that kind of energy, and that's why they do Kundalini yoga. Were you working on that, or was that something that happened spontaneously? Like where were you in your life specifically, or even emotionally, that led you to go there?
Well, my stepdaughter, who's my sister from a previous life, she's a soul person to me. She gave me a gift certificate to Reiki. And this
Mm,
was before the awakening. This person knew things about me. And when she performed the Reiki on me, it was starting to open up my chakras.
mm,
I'm ultra curious, and I started signing up for workshops and studying with shamans. I wanted to learn about energy. I started learning from monks. I went to ashram, and I just started to really go within and breathe and self reflect. And one morning, I'll never forget, I was exchanging energy with the trees in my backyard. I was doing some deep breathing,
mm.
but I didn't know about Kundalini opening up
Right, right.
to feel my soul even more so. So, energy exchanging with the trees, breathing in, taking their energy, breathing out, giving it back to them, really being an appreciation with our earth, which sustains us during our
Mm,
incarnation, that triggered the awakening. And when
mm.
the awakening happened, I spent about 3 days with no sleep and no food. I was
Wow.
tired and I wasn't hungry. I was living on pure spirit.
Yeah.
And everything stopped. No alcohol. I'm gonna say it. Celibacy. The
Yeah.
beginning just create. I wasn't balanced. I was more crown chakra and heart chakra, but
Hmm.
I wasn't rooted to the earth. I think I
Mm.
spent a good 5 years learning and experiencing the upper world,
Right.
or I got slammed back down to the earth.
Right. Right.
So it's
Right.
an intense experience. But if I had to go through that to soften it for anyone else, then isn't that what it's about? Walking
Yeah.
the home, helping each other,
Yeah.
right?
Tell me about the Renee that I didn't know, who you were before all of this occurred.
Before 2011, I always exercised, ate well. I haven't eaten meat since I was 20. I always vibe with a clean way of being. But on the weekends, I would go out and have a dirty martini. I was fine,
Right.
in that way, in the third dimensional construct. But once I had my awakening, all desire for anything that's not soul based kind of just slipped away. But I was
Mm.
a very nice person, always very nice, but I would tolerate alcohol, or
Right.
I would be able to be with people that today I don't resonate with their energy and it feels kind of dense and thick. So
Right.
I had a more of a veil on me. So I was more, grounded into the earth reality, the human,
Right.
less.
Right. And then at some point, right, like if we go into, kind of like like who you became after this spiritual awakening, right? Is that when, you had this need to start to understand how we could create better food systems, for example? Like how did that all come about? And I think that this is, one of the most important topics right now, because we all think that we can only get our food, at the supermarket. That's what we all think, and we're paying top dollar for what is called organic. And it's really hard to find non-GMO. And you were the first person who turned me on to the fact that what they label as organic is actually not even organic because, and I'll let you explain this, in the transport, what they do. But, I would love to be able to hear, kind of what kind of shifts you envision for a future where we all have access to healthy, organic, non-GMO food
Yeah.
that doesn't have to break the bank, and that's like one of the most important topics that I feel like everyone wants to know.
And it's a very important topic.
Yeah.
We have access to locally grown organic food. I deal with a farm that's a CSA farm, and
Hmm.
CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, where you deal directly with the farmer and there's no middleman, there's no one else involved. So I get organic food delivered to my doorstep between June and November every week, once a week. The organic food is a little more money because our government doesn't subsidize it. So
Hmm.
we have to pay a little more money for it. And the reason why I like local is because when food is organic, it doesn't have like shelf life. So it has to be eaten faster. I have
Hmm.
raspberry bushels, I pick them and eat them. They'll never stay on a bus or a train ride across the country. So that's why I'm a big fan of eating local and organic. New Jersey has plenty of farms. We have a lot of CSA. We have farmers markets. We could grow some things ourselves. We don't have to have a complete green thumb, but we could contribute to our own food, supply.
Right. Right.
I think it's important for people to know that CSA was started in this country in Massachusetts in 1986, but where it came from is, have you heard of Rudolf Steiner?
Yes. Yes, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
so he started the Waldorf schools.
Hmm.
And why he started them is because they were looking, a benefactor approached him and said, we need kids in a school that could be a peaceful contribution to society. So people seeked him out for help and
Mm.
started biodynamic farming, which is composting, rotating crops. And in 1924, he held 8 classes in Europe because farmers went to him when synthetic fertilizers were ruining the soil, the animals, the crops, and the health of humanity.
Wow.
So he taught them how to farm organically. He also said that if the West doesn't make the connection between the physical and the spiritual world, they're going to bring their own destruction. So, as we all could see now, our food system is a complete mess and we need to change it. But
Right.
in order to change it, we have to participate in it. We can't just allow,
Right.
we have to be in this game. So I say, eat organic, go to a local farm, avoid GMO at all costs. Genetically modified fake DNA altering foods in a lab should never be had, ever. There's conventional food which uses synthetic fertilizers. Some people say they can't afford organic, so they get conventional. They soak it in baking soda and vinegar. You could wash off some of the chemicals, but the problem is those chemicals seep into our soil, our systems, and eventually it seeps into, we have a 6,000 square mile dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, mostly to blame for agriculture and runoff. So now in a dead zone, you're killing off biodiversity. So even though we all want affordable, maybe we have to take the first steps by not tolerating the conventional and the GMO and do as much organic as we can, because
Right.
our health depends on it.
Right, right. Yeah. And thank you for that. It's so true. And I feel like now, like most people understand that they should have organic and then they don't buy it because it is more expensive. And then for those that are opting to buy it at the supermarket, and they believe that they're buying something that is chemical free and won't affect their nervous system or, give them like, I mean, there's a whole host of issues that we're all aware of that can happen when we're taking in these toxins. So A, do you want to talk a little bit about what those issues are? And B, do you want to also talk about why the food that's labeled at the supermarket as organic actually isn't?
Yeah. Well, if we're not eating pure food, if we're not eating organic from nutrient-rich soil, we're not getting the most vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and nutrition that we need to sustain a healthy body. So that's one reason why we should be organic. Also, the chemicals in the conventional foods have been linked to attention deficit, autism, cancer. There's a whole host. Not being able to become pregnant. There's so many ways that chemicals affect the body that it's too many to count,
And that's okay. And we make that okay. And that I feel like is why, we all have to start on an individual level to participate. Like I love that you use those words, because we can't say that that's okay anymore.
Right.
We can't pay for that. We can't be a party to that anymore and then pay into a healthcare system, which is really a sick care system because it feels like all one cycle,
It is. It
you
is.
know?
If you want me to elaborate on that, some of the same people that are making the food systems, creating GMOs and buying lands, and those people also own the medicine. So if you don't look beyond this dimension, you will be caught up in a karmic trap of being fed poison food, being fed poison medicine to fix the problem, and you're not going to get out of the problem. In fact, it's going to get worse.
Yes.
But sometimes we have to see the contrast so much so that we will not accept anything other than making a change. And I think that's where we're at now.
That it's 100% where we're at. And I know, with thinking that we're buying organic foods at the supermarket, is it true that they're able to spray it in transport? Like maybe it was grown organically, but then they're able to spray it when they're transporting it and still label it organic because on the trucks, bugs can come and things like that.
I never looked into that, but one of my partners that I host retreats with, she mentioned that to me.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, I've heard it. I'm not there, so I don't know. One of us could astral travel and see what's going on.
We
Maybe,
should do that.
eventually we're going to be able to see through everything.
Yes.
So eventually
Yes.
that'll come out. But that's why I like dealing with the farm that I know directly.
You know.
There's
Yeah.
also Omaha farm in New Jersey, in Aberdeen. There's so many farms there.
Oh yeah. I also do a CSA. I do the Great Hills CSA. So I just have to go pick mine up. So same deal. All of our fruits and vegetables are, I know, organic. They're not genetically modified. And then I showed you a picture of my indoor garden. It's called The Garden, Gardyn. I'll leave a link in the description below so everyone can check it out. So we also grow, I mean, like it's 30 different kinds of things that we're growing in addition, to what we're getting at the CSA. So we should never have to buy what is supposed to be organic at the supermarket. And even if it's organic, it's still genetically modified. Now, do you want to talk a little bit about what happens when we eat something that's genetically modified and we put that in our body, what that does to our genes?
Yeah. Well, so conventional, the first choice is organic. The second choice is conventional, although I'm not a fan. What I would forbid everyone from eating is genetically modified food. And that's basically in a lot of processed foods. And they use the word bioengineered. They don't say GMO, they say bioengineered. But there also has to be a certain amount proven in order for them to put the label. If there's less, that they don't have to label it. So it's very tricky.
Wow.
Not a fan of processed food, to be honest with
Right. You can't buy anything packaged, I think.
I don't like it.
That's the whole, like, that's what people don't even realize. And I feel like this is, we should probably do another podcast because we could probably talk forever, but like, we need to start becoming completely non-reliant on supermarkets because like, it is like literally all like processed and genetically modified. And we need to start taking ownership of eating whole foods, growing them ourselves, making it ourselves, and also becoming less reliant on eating as many times a day as we're told we're supposed to, because we don't even need as much food as we're being told.
Yes. The GMO foods, which is probably a large percentage of the supermarket, and there's a little tiny section of organic veggies. But what's not good about GMO foods, they're made in a laboratory. It's not real. They alter the DNA. And in order for them to grow the GMO foods, which is called on a monoculture farm, what they do is they plant the seeds very close together. So there's a lot of profit. And then they spray it with glyphosate. So no weeds could grow. And glyphosate, we know, is an Agent Orange. It's a killer. It kills. And on those monoculture farms, there is not a butterfly, a bee, a bird. There is no life to be found, right? So, and they also farm with drones and autonomous tractors. So do you want to eat your fake food made in a laboratory and picked from robots? Or do you want to know your farmer, give him the money or her the money he or she deserves, and in return, you get that great health and your planet is flourishing because now you have all this life, this biodiversity. That's life.
Yes, yes. I had listened to, I know sometimes when we talk, I'll tell you about Marina Jacobi, who is a channel for like extraterrestrial, folks, our off-planet family, I'll say, who has talked extensively about genetically modified foods actually modify our own gene code. And it's the gene code that tells us, what's going to happen in our body, whether or not we're going to get all the things, hereditarily, that were in our generational family. Because we have the ability to actually reverse our own gene code. We can be empowered to actually not get any of the things that we think that we have to get. And then, so it kind of like plays back into what you had said earlier of how the healthcare system, which to me is a sick care system, and the food system are kind of playing together in the background. And I think like this is like such like the biggest reason why I do this kind of a podcast, because these are the conversations that we have to start having. Like what's going on in the background that we're paying into, or we're buying into, that we have to start questioning now.
And unknowingly, I'm sure a lot of people realize what they're doing, but it's the most important thing for us to do is take control of our health and our planet and our consciousness and do better as a human race.
Yes.
So it's important.
Yes. So would you say that everyone has access to a CSA locally where they live?
We have, how many do we have in America? We have a couple of thousand CSAs in America, but ours ends in the beginning of December, the end of November.
Right,
So
right.
please get a little sad come December, but start at least for half the year, you could eat from the farm.
Yes, yes. And that is why we got the garden,
Uh,
because we were like, okay, now that's something we could do indoors.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
they'll take it another level. They'll freeze, they'll pickle, they'll
Right,
our food. It all depends on how much time you have, how off the grid you want to be. I have
right.
people that are completely off the grid. They live in Pennsylvania, and someone got a little bit of maple syrup, but it took her like 15 trees to get that syrup. And she says, now I know why they charge so much money.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
we could all improve. We could start by
Yes.
no GMO, and then
Yes.
start by more organic, get away from the conventional. We could all take some steps, and we all just keep improving, all of us.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I even start to like look around. I don't know if I've said this to you before, and I just think it's silly that we even have lawns, that we pay for grass, like
I,
we pay for someone to take care of our grass.
yeah, we should have food.
We could be growing food on our, like we don't even have to at all go to the supermarket.
Food.
That's what people don't really realize. And that's kind of the shift. So, I love that we're talking about this. And I know that you also have extensively studied, kind of like the blue zones internationally. And so can you speak a little bit about that, what we can learn from them and how we could potentially replicate what it is that they're doing in our own food system, kind of in like our own community?
Yeah. Well, the blue zones are very interesting. Those people are the longest lived, healthiest people on the planet. And
Right.
it took National Geographic with scientists, longevity experts, and demographers over 20 years to study them and see what they're doing. And the simplicity is they eat 90 to 95% plant-based with
Yes.
4 to 5 times a month, except Loma Linda doesn't have any meat. They have fish and eggs. They all have gardens or they have access to markets. So they're eating organic, they're eating clean. Talk about lawn, they're very active. They don't hire people to do everything for them. They move a lot. There's a lot of movement.
Right.
And they
Right.
all have a prayer and meditation practice, which means whether they know it or not, they are integrating mind, body, spirit.
Mm.
So they're calming themselves down, they're tapping into their spirit, they're eating clean, they dance, they walk, they move, they drink like in Ikaria, Greece. They all generations get together, they look so beautiful, they get dressed, they drink their homemade wine, and they're having a ball.
They're having fun. Yeah. They're having fun. That's a big secret.
Yes, they're
Uh,
having fun,
uh,
eating clean, and they're drinking clean. Like our wine, a lot of our wines have eggshells, fish bladders, bone dust. So no wonder why here some of us have to be so extreme.
right. Right.
So,
Right.
we may not have a choice. We have to be extreme. And it seems like we have to try a little harder to get our good food. But once we all start shifting, there'll be more of a demand for it. Hopefully, we could just weed out what we don't want anymore.
Right.
So,
Right. You
shift.
you just hit on such a big piece of it because like the people have the power and I think that the people have forgotten because we're the ones that are paying. We're the ones that are paying. So we decide what we really want. So when we actually all stand up as sovereign beings and say, this is actually really what we want. And I think that's the shift that we need to start making at the community level. Us individuals need to do that. We need to start getting together and figure out how do we roll up our sleeves and advocate as a community and create these kinds of systems. Like maybe it's even like a community farm, a community garden. How do we start getting back together into community, start having fun together instead of like hiding in houses,
Right.
having like everything done for us and we just like pile on things and isolate even further. We got to get rid of those things and start making stuff again and doing it together.
Yes, and expand. And the more we
Yes.
expand and the more we learn, the more we get these ideas. And maybe someone will be inspired to get rid of their lawn or
Yeah.
not good
Yeah.
for the economy, by the way. I was going to say get rid of your landscaper, but I'm not saying that's nice.
We
But
did.
I
We did.
I never had a landscaper because whatever you do, you'll always be able to do. So I
Yes.
want to be
Yes.
move. Oh,
Yes.
do you
Even
know?
like the leaves that fall, they are nutrients for Earth. Like
Yes,
the leaf debris. And we're like, oh my God, get that leaf off my lawn. And then we put fertilizer on it.
I know. Yeah, well, not me. If you saw my lawn, I have dandelion, I have weeds, I have a beautiful lawn because I have no chemicals. I refuse to do it.
Because you have defined beauty in what nature is.
Yes. And by the way, weeds have a purpose too. And weed just means it's native to where you live.
Yes.
Dandelion,
Yes.
healthy they are. My
Yes. I
friend,
always feel bad about pulling out the weeds because I'm like, wow, it was so strong to break through and now I'm going to kill it. That's what I think. So like that's what's hard about like, and this is such a good topic to kind of segue into like how we can live, kind of like Jesus Christ said, be in the world, right? But not of the world. Like how do we do both? Like how do we do this
oh,
here in Staten Island? Like, like you talked about like the blue zones. Like how do we incorporate that into our regular life while still being here?
yeah. Well, Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. So if you want clean food, support clean food. If you want more energy, start moving more. If you're more curious about healthy foods, maybe don't put down a lawn, put an apple tree, put some raspberries like I have. My raspberries come back.
Mm,
Plant food, make your surroundings like a fairy tale.
yes.
So
That's
it's
so
not
beautiful.
us, and it could
Yeah.
be continuing.
Yeah. Tell us if people want to look up like where the blue zones are. You had mentioned Greece. I know Costa Rica.
So Sardinia, Italy is the first, and it's home to the most centenarian men.
Mm,
And Okinawa, Japan is home to the most centenarian women. Ikaria, Greece has like no dementia, no chronic illness. Nicoya Peninsula, Costa Rica, they also have a high concentration of centenarian men, and they have the longest lived documented cowboy. He's 100 years old, and he's riding his horse.
wow.
Melinda, California, they tend to live 10 longer and healthier years than the rest of the Americans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's essentially what we're eating and the stress and the isolation that's killing us.
Yes. So eat well, meditate, go within, be in nature, unplug from the matrix, meaning that circle of what's on TV, what am I eating, what doctor am I seeing? Kind of expand and question things.
Yes.
Question, is this really good for me? Is it healing? Is it nurturing my spirit? Or am I just going to go along with the status quo and not put any effort in? There are people that are meant to be those people, and that's okay. But if you're not one of them, the earth could use the expansion, the light, and the goodness. We could use it.
Yes. Yes. And it's everything that you're saying, meditation, breath work, it's kind of like this understanding that you have of the mind, body, spirit, health. Can you go a little bit deeper into, balancing chakras, like what we can learn from all of the meridians that we have in our body? Because I know some folks are listening, know what that is and maybe are starting to tap into their potential. And some folks just have never even heard of any of these things
Yeah.
at all. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how you incorporate that specifically into your daily life.
Yeah. So I think that a meditation practice is a good tool to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, lower blood pressure, create calm, creates an inner sanctuary. It
Mm,
to integrate your mind, body, spirit, and it really soothes you and gives you a safe space to be at least once a day, right?
yeah,
We like
yeah,
there all the time, but once a day,
yeah.
get your center, breathe, get your peace, and it's a great practice, and it's got a lot of health benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Add breath work to that. The breath work helps to give you something to focus on, so you stay present and your mind is not going past or the future. And the breath work also helps, it helps drain your lymphatic system, especially the belly breathing.
Oh, good.
And it also clears your meridians or your energetic highways. And what you have going through your energetic highways is chi, prana, your life force energy.
Mhm.
So you want to keep those clear. And when you breathe full body breath, you're opening up your meridians, you're opening up your chakras, you're letting go, you're releasing whatever you don't want to hold on to. The importance of forgiveness relates to that too.
Mhm.
It could be clear because in Chinese medicine, they say that all disease starts in the spirit.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you clear it daily, you have a better chance of not being diseased. For example, if you're holding on to anger, that'll manifest in the gallbladder. If you're holding on to fear and why me, that manifests in the kidneys. If you're not speaking your truth, if you can't communicate, that'll manifest in your thyroid, your
Mm.
metabolism, and that could have many other effects. So your stuck energy is going to eventually create illness because we're
Mhm.
beings and we have to pay
Yes.
to that too. That's
Yes.
why the true health is mind, body, and spirit. It's not just eat healthy, be mad at everyone, and hold all that in. It's mind, body, and spirit. It's clearing the energy. It's eating well. It's having a nice balance. So
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up with, how we are holding different emotions in various organs. And because I think so few people understand that the pain that they're carrying, maybe in their heart or in their belly,
yeah,
or in their throat or in their shoulders is attached to a feeling that they have,
right.
that they have been having chronically for a really long time. And like they haven't ever taken a moment. I think most people have never taken a moment to ask themselves what it means.
Yeah. And that's where the healing is. That's where the wounding is, where the light comes in. Or when it gets too heavy, it'll get your attention. And that's where the surrendering to it, the forgiving, the
Yeah.
letting go, the making peace with it all comes in. So you could exist as a sovereign being of light in
Yes.
the spirit. Yes, you're human. Yes, we all know. All you need is 5 minutes out in a dense area. You'll be reminded how human you are. But we're spirit also. And the more we all do that work and we all elevate, it'll be less to transmute. It won't feel so dense in different areas. But we are going through that transition. And I hope everyone makes the ascension bus.
Now that you've brought that up, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
you know, like the first day we met when you were purging and you were transforming, I say go or be dragged and look at the hard
Mm.
times as an opportunity to grow and find a safe space or person to hold space for you and to support you on your journey because we don't have to hold that pain anymore.
Right.
Doesn't it's not serving us. Although I could say that understanding energy, there's benevolent and malevolent. The ultimate high is love and light. That's the pure truth of our existence. But the shadows do serve a purpose too, to create change. So you have to use your discernment and see, is it for you to change? Did you learn something from that? Or are you staying in your shadows, not wanting to do the work and you're willing to stay there? So
Right.
everything has its purpose.
Yes. So walk us through an example that kind of everyone listening could be able to use, kind of like some kind of daily practice, where maybe you've noticed some heaviness in your body. How do you go about having some kind of technique interwoven, for being able to get back to that place of peace, to be able to flush out the pain that you feel, to be able to look at what it is that might have occurred on the outside that caused it, and get you back to the place of neutrality again.
Yeah. Well, a meditation practice, I think, is imperative because it gives you that time to be with yourself, go within, reflect, breathe, you know, clear the emotions and really understand them. And naturally, when you meditate, you're going to go into a higher frequency. And when you see things from a higher perspective, you're more likely to observe, understand, transmute it, let it go. So this way we could clear that energy,
Right.
you know. So it's very important to have that practice. And then,
Yeah.
of course, eating for your vibration. When you're eating organic foods, and especially fruit and vegetable is the strongest means of purification. When you're eating energy food, photosynthesized by the sun, you're eating,
Mhm.
that's going to trigger your energy body to liven up, raise your vibration, and avoid things that lower your vibration. If you feel called to be on this path, maybe you want to, you know, give up or let go of a little bit of drinking. Maybe you want to be more with the community of support. Definitely be out in nature, because nature has healing electrons. You know, you just lay in nature and soak in all that energy. Think of when you go to a forest, which I know you do, barefoot. I know.
Yes.
Or,
Just for that.
right?
Yeah.
Or you see a beautiful beach, the ocean is cleansing for negativity. So there are so many things you could do to start this journey. And it is addictive. Once you start, you want to keep going up, 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 up.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. And that's what we talked about yesterday when we were prepping for this. It's kind of like once you up level into what feels like a higher level of vibration, and you start to see more and more of that beauty that and kind of like love that you feel reflected back to you in the world, you definitely want to keep expanding into that, you know, like you're definitely, you're like, oh, okay, I could see how like I'm really, you know, how I feel about myself is allowing me to create the world that reflects back to me.
Yeah.
You know, and and that's another thing that I want so badly for people to understand is that we are such powerful co-creators of the world around us, right? We don't have to live in this place where we think that everything is doomsday, you know,
Right.
everything's falling apart. It's only ever there for what you had said before, for the purposes of growth. You know,
Right.
like, how do I take what I saw, question what I'm looking at, decide that that's not a match for how I want to feel energetically, even if it's like a terrible news story, allow myself to question what I'm seeing as to whether or not I really need to take that pain in.
Right.
Because what I can allow myself to do instead is like all the practices that you just said and get myself back to a place of neutrality.
Yes, neutrality is beautiful. You know, when you go higher, of course, there's the joy, the peace, the love, and everything else. But at least the neutrality puts you at like a starting point where you're just okay. You're not triggered into anything. You're not too low. You're not too high, but you're neutral, and that's a good place to be sometimes.
Right. Yeah. And so that kind of goes like, you know, right into, you know, you've had these experiences of understanding how you can shape our own reality, right? Like, what do you think is necessary for humanity to do to actually elevate beyond this current dimension and be able to come together to create a new reality? Because someone will say, well, that news story is important for me to know. You know, like I have to understand that, you know, these folks were just killed, and then I have to go get all these other people to be on my side to agree with why I'm angry.
Yeah. Well, I think that eventually when people reach the levels of enlightenment, they know that the duality is only for this dimension. And even if you're not enlightened, you could know that this dimension is where there's polarity. It serves a purpose, but with your free will, because it is a free will planet, you get to choose what timeline you want to live on. Do you want to live from an expanded consciousness, or do you want to stay in the shadows? And that's okay too. I don't know if we'll ever completely get rid of the shadows. I'm not sure, but if people are willing to do the work, or it's their time to do the work, God will turn on their lights, or synchronicity will have it. You know, the energetic universe is so intelligent that it sets meetings up. It's always working to walk each other home. So, the same way we met that day, people will start experiencing synchronicities, and it'll pull them on their path further and further. it's a process that doesn't happen overnight. But I think that things are so chaotic right now because I think God and the universe want so badly for the shift to happen that it
Right.
allow these things.
Right.
Take,
Right.
so
Yeah.
just be witnessing where people are in their evolution. I'm sure that there was an enlightened person watching me down martinis on Saturday night saying, look at this girl, you know? So I was on a different timeline, and then it was my time to be on another one. But then I took the ball and I ran with it because I like that feeling. And
Right.
my mission to help people. It's who I am. So I think that we just have to understand that everyone is just in a different place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that, you know, it is our right to decide, because you had talked about free will, how we take it in.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's, yeah. So, you know, with that, because you had mentioned God, you know, do you believe that there's a role in kind of this shift that we're all making, that organized religion still plays, or do you feel as though we're moving towards this kind of unity consciousness where it's more about spirituality?
I feel that at times religion could help certain people because I think that there's wisdom in the teachings. I
Right.
teachings got bastardized when it landed down on earth. Um, I think we should all have respect for each other's way home to the light. I think that when you have integrated everything, you just become like a being of light and you don't get too caught up in the polarity of you were taught Kabbalah, you were taught Christianity, you were taught Buddhism. You know, when you go past that, then you just know that love is it. If Jesus got
Yes.
you to love, I love Jesus. You know, if Jesus got you to love, then that's for you. If you're in a place of the world where you never heard of him and you're a monk in the cave and you feel love, you emanating that frequency is beautiful because you're emanating from your soul essence. But everyone
Yes.
is walking a different place and a different journey at a different time. But again, the polarity is in this dimension. As you raise in consciousness, it's all one love, so bright, so light. It doesn't need words, it doesn't need anything. But I guess here we compartmentalize our belief by maybe what we learned or, you know, in our own personal ways.
Right, right. So are you feeling as though this shift that humanity is making, like this kind of like ascension bus, is their personal empowerment that's attached to being able to find the God that lives within?
I think that we're definitely going more in that direction than seeing it as something outside of us,
Right.
seeing that we could embody that light. And there have been many prophets and messengers coming to give us that word. But I think that at this time, we know that, okay, the teachers taught us enough. Now we could embody that ourselves.
Yeah, because essentially, like the Kundalini awakening that we talked about in the beginning is the embodiment of that chi, you know, or that energetic force, which is really just a universal energy, which is a spark of the divine that lives in every single one of us.
Yes.
Right. And the question is, do we know it?
Some of us do.
You know, do we know that there's a spark of the divine that's in us and that we could make it bigger, and we don't have to go to a certain building for it, and we don't have to follow certain rules for it, you know, or eat kosher food for it, or pay, you know, money for it, because it's already in us,
Yeah.
you know?
Here's where the light allows the dark for contrast, and it's ultimately for our own good.
Mhm.
So a lot of the darker energy has infiltrated churches. And
Mhm.
you see it. I mean, it's very obvious. But I think that's to empower people, nothing against deacons or priests or pastors. Beautiful
Yeah.
men and women of God and light are needed desperately on this earth.
Yes.
People are realizing that they could have that knowledge within them. They are teacher.
Yes.
But until you get to that point, you may look outside yourself for a teacher. It's all a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
But eventually, when you're self-realized or soul realized, which happens during a Kundalini awakening, you just know your soul as for what it is.
Yes. Yes. It's exactly that. And you know, that is what unites us all, because we're all just essentially souls, right? It's not that I'm a soul with a body. It's
Right.
that, you know, my body actually has a soul that is like completely inhabiting it, that I can allow it to come all the way down into, actually, I said that backwards. It's not that I'm a body with a soul. I'm a soul that happens to have a body. You know,
Right.
we've taken this human incarnation, you know, for like the purposes of like existing in what really is heaven. This is
Right.
an Eden. Like we forgot, like if we went to those blue zones, we would be like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Like they're having a great time. They don't have to like wait for something good to happen to feel the joy, because they're waking up with joy.
Clear water, clean earth, healthy food, no disease,
Yeah.
people living long.
Yeah.
That's paradise.
That's paradise. And that is God consciousness, because you are one with the energy of the earth, and also one with the energy of the galactic like entire cosmic world. You know,
Right.
because people don't really ever take a moment to remember that it's all connected.
Yes.
You know,
You,
it is all connected.
yeah. You know what I like to do in my meditations at times? I like to do my breathing, and I
Mm.
like to breathe up through my whole body and out of my crown. I'm connected to the ethers, and then down onto my feet. I bring that light down, I anchor it into the earth, and I just start letting those two energies flow through me. And that's it. That's
Yeah.
that's it.
Yes. I do the same thing.
I don't doubt it. I'm not surprised. So,
It's that simple, but that is God consciousness or source, or you know, universal energy, and it's a connection from above and below. And when you receive it, like if you think of like Jesus on the cross, that was really about as above, so below, really
yeah,
being able to conduct that energy that you're talking about, which is pure love. And the arms out are receiving it from humans on earth and then giving it back out to humans on earth. So like people don't really realize that all of this lives inside of us. That was actually the real teachings of Christ, which we could have a whole other podcast about, which has been buried, right? Because when we remember that like actual Christ consciousness, right? The consciousness of the divine is the thing that can put us into a state of health, right?
mhm,
Is the thing that can allow us to manifest the reality that we want to live in, is the thing that can allow us to connect with others even without words. You know, it's the thing that can bring us the right people at the right time, you know, kind of like allow us to live our truth and live in a state of joy.
yeah,
When we know that, then we're empowered, and that's what no one wants us to know.
right, exactly. Well, in some ways, religion could be a form of control, but that was the last 2,000 years. Now we're in a different era. So we're kind of graduating past that.
Right.
So,
We are, and and I'm glad that we're talking about this, because I think people want to graduate past it, and
yeah,
they're moving away from traditional organized religion because they're not feeling what we're talking about there.
right,
And they're looking for something else, but they don't know what it is. And that they've been taught that God lives outside of them, that there isn't something that's a part of them that's inside of
right,
them, that's God, and that they have to be, quote, good people to feel it.
right, right. Understanding the energetics behind it, to me, allows it to come full circle. The understanding of it all. And that's what I feel can in religion, it can't be learned. I want to feel it. I want to be the priestess. I want to understand it for myself. And
Right.
we're
Yes.
to that point. We're
Yes.
getting to that point. Listen,
Yes.
God bless the people who try to do good and show people forgiveness, and that's great. But now I feel, at least I've woken up to knowing why you have to forgive people. You,
Right.
you understand why it takes the question out of your head. Instead of someone saying someone just murdered your neighbor and you have to forgive them. But if you understand the energy behind it, they were in their shadow. They had no light of their own. So they projected their misery onto someone else. You know, forgive them. Like when Jesus says, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. When you don't have that light running through you, you know, like you're going to be like the narcissist. And I'm not vilifying them, but the absence of light is dark. So you have to forgive them because they're already suffering. They're already so far away from their true essence that not only do they need forgiveness, but they need prayers to help grow. Because really, what kind of world do we want? Do we want a light world where we experience peace and joy? Or do we want a world of unforgiveness and bitterness and hatred? Really, we want the first option. So,
Oh, absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
yeah.
So this kind of takes us really nicely into contracts that were made pre-incarnation. One of our favorite topics.
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on that and how understanding that specifically would allow us to kind of even forgive more easily and put us back into the path of our own expansion?
Yeah. Well, say for example, I'm an old soul and one of my lessons is self-worth. So I'm going to agree before incarnation, you could call it a soul contract, to have a relationship in whichever form. It could be friendship, family, love. I'm going to have a contract with someone who's going to be really mean to me and force me to really get my self-worth lesson on. So every is meant again to walk us home. So we have these contracts for us to grow because the soul needs to expand. The soul wants to grow. And that's where we are now, especially after 2012. So the karmic contracts were meant for you to grow and learn. And when the contract is over, you pull apart. There's nothing left to hold on to.
So that kind of, we'll call darkness was something that you manifested here in this reality because of an agreement that you made before you came here, because this is what your soul was up to from like an evolution standpoint. So like that person then who felt as though that, they were treating you this way and are you saying like that is then the requirement is like moving out of the victim mode and going into forgiveness because maybe they have a contract to have done.
Yes, understands it. So the ego is steeped in the 3D. So come from your spirit, observe it, and look at why they're doing this, say to you, and see that it could be a projection and forgive them if that's what it is, because it's coming from a painful place. If someone's hurting you, you know that saying, hurt people, hurt people. So you could forgive them. And then you could even pray for them if you choose. You don't have to give all your energy to them, but just wish them well. Remember, we share an energy field with everyone. So the more people that we could have, okay, to me, that's like what the new earth would look like. Like a lot of karmic lessons are done. And now we're just kind of like floating around in joy together.
Yes.
At least in my relationships.
Yes. So, yeah. And that's what it looks like whenever there's near-death experiences and people explain that's like that's what it looks like on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's where we've come from.
Yeah.
Like that's what we are. That's actually what we already are. So like we can't, like, I don't even think it's an ascension play. I think we are bringing our souls down into the bodies as much as possible for them to be able to descend into this reality and turn it into the 5D. Can you talk a little bit about, I know we don't have a lot of time, the difference between 3D and 5D, if people don't know, that could be new for some folks.
So the 3D, which is what we're all, including the earth, is growing out of. The 3D is Republican, Democrat, black, white, boy, girl. There's a lot of polarity here in this dimension. Time exists here. Right. Our ego exists here. The fourth dimension would be the bridge to the whole world. And the fourth dimension is like the God winks, the synchronicities and coincidence, things like that. The fifth dimension is the non-physical world, and that's higher than the 3D. But you
Mm.
know, the angels don't let anyone into that dimension unless you are clean in energy, and that's where doing the work really is necessary, because when you truly forgive, you truly drop the stuff that doesn't serve you, and you ascend and you integrate your 5D non-physical spirit, that's when you get more of the maybe encounters or just the light feelings. It's
Right.
nicer there.
Yeah. And you're just like living in bliss. You can choose bliss more often.
Yeah.
Yeah, things happen more easily for you because you're a match to the things that you want to attract, which we can also have a whole other podcast about,
Yeah.
the law of attraction and specifically how to manifest.
Yeah.
So I guess we're kind of up to the last question, which you touched on a bit, but if you had to say, what the new earth looks like to you, along with like what the most essential shifts are to be able to create this new reality of health, love, and unity, which you kind of just talked about. Any final points that you would want to leave us with?
Besides meditation, breath work, eating healthy, having surroundings that are pure, having an expanded consciousness, I think it's going to be a lot lighter. And I think that we are going to have less dense encounters, and we're going to see more people in, say, business that is to help humanity, as opposed to business, I'm making money off of you. I don't care if I sell you garbage. It's not so much me, it's about us. And
Yeah.
we all feel that energy. We're going to be able to see through it anyway, but it'll be more energy. For example, I have friends who are singing. It's coming up. They have an event coming up, and they're like new earth music, and everything is expanded consciousness. So I want to go see them. I have no interest in hearing like lyrics that are low frequency, because everything is raising. So I think all of our surroundings are going to be a little bit lighter. And I think it's exciting if everyone could want to participate somehow in it.
Yes, yes, so beautiful.
Collective.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of the amazing information that you've shared. And it's so empowering to know that us as individuals can all take steps to be able to co-create the new earth. So thank you.
Thank you, Alana. It was great to see you. Great to talk to you.